And I've been mostly keeping up with the squash bugs, but it's kind of starting to get a little bit excessive, but we're still getting a few zucchinis here and there, which is nice. What has started to come on, you can see this zucchini, it's pretty messed up from all the squash bugs. Now the good news is there are actually ants attacking them, which is kind of nice, but there's just a lot of squash bugs. And a lot of little ones, so it's really harder for me to pick them. So this is all the squash. Over here, this is the pumpkin. It's not a real pumpkin. This is cucurbita, excuse me. This is a cucurbita moschata. This is Seminole pumpkin, and it's probably the squash part of Three Sisters because they're a little more pest resistant. They don't really get the squash bugs the way that the zucchini do. And you can eat these as a summer squash, but I'm letting mine ripen to a winter squash. It's got this funny spot here because I let the chickens into the garden and they decided that they wanted to eat the squash more than the squash bugs. So right up here, I've got another one. This is climbing on the fence. And what we started to get finally are these guys. So this is a member of the Cucurbitaceae, but it's not a cucurbita species. This is Kukisi. It's actually a gourd, and most people consider gourds ornamental. But if you, at least this one, I don't know if it's true of all of them, but if you get them when they're young, about 8 to 9 inches, you can actually peel them and you could cook them up. And they're pretty tasty. They're not quite as good as an actual zucchini, but they're pretty good. So this plant has just kind of exploded all over the fence, which is what I intended. And I think it just had some trouble. We kind of got some weed fabric and this got kind of left behind, so we'll have to clean this up at the end of the season. So over here, it's pretty weedy because we just left some soil over here that was left over. So this is my experimental Three Sisters. You can see the prairie in the background. And this right here, this is my first ear, the new place. And of course, since I only have 3, I had to hand pollinate it. And this one is a smaller one I'm trying to hand pollinate. This is claridge. This is actually a flower corn, I think. It's a blue corn, so I thought it'd be interesting to grow something different. It's not sweet corn. And of course the beans on it are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, although they seem to like the fence a little bit better. But they did grow on the corn. My squash, I think because of the super shallow soil, because I put this on a piece of cardboard, as you may notice, they didn't really take off compared to the ones that were in much deeper soil. And over here, on this part of the fence, here I've got the Chinese red noodle. This is an Asian bean. This is a Vigna species. And so far I haven't gotten any beans off of it, but I planted it really late. These are my later planted zucchini that I was hoping would avoid the squash bug problem, hopefully. And then I've got over here, these are pink-eyed peas. This is a different Vigna species that's less viney. And I've got actually quite a few of these. And I'm just waiting for them to get dry so that I can pick them. I'm using them as dry beans. And my purple cabbage is just kind of sitting here getting eaten by bugs. And at this point, I'm just kind of hoping that it will produce seeds at some point. So maybe I'll try to overwinter it and see if it will bolt and produce seeds for me, just as an experiment. I mean, it's in a tiny patch of the garden, so I'm not too worried about it. Over here, this is again where I harvested the potatoes, and it took me a while. And maybe you can see, I've actually got some seedlings coming up. These are carrot seedlings. So I've got purple carrots on one side, and I've got orange carrots on the other side. And I did the cardboard trick, basically where you water it and then you throw a piece of cardboard over top. The only problem I had is I had lots of fungus that decided to grow under that. And the other problem I had, I put beets over here, but unfortunately we have a bunch of basically house sparrows that decided that they were tasty, and I think pretty sure they pulled them all up and ate them, because I saw them coming up and then they were gone and there were little holes where they were left. And I've seen them in the garden. So over here I've got, that is actually a peanut plant. That's my one surviving peanut, probably from the house sparrows or whatever it was that decided to eat all of my peanuts. Over here, these are fork leaf sweet potatoes, so they're the big thing that's really going crazy right now. This is the Buena Mulata pepper, and I've finally got some that are starting to turn red and then kind of orange. These, I just love these. They took forever to get going, but I started them late. And I'm going to be so excited to get these actually on time next year, because they are just the perfect amount of spiciness for me. I'll just take one of these and cook some eggs with them, and I make spicy eggs, and they're really great. So anyway, this is all fork leaf sweet potato, and then this is another Buena Mulata pepper. So here's the funny thing, these are also dragon's tongue, but they haven't been near as productive as the others. And I think this particular part of the bed, this particular spot, is just a little bit hot and dry, and they really don't like it very much. And then I've got this crazy bean that I don't remember planting at all. But it produces tasty beans, so I've been taking beans from it, so maybe I'll save some seeds on whatever it is, because I don't know what it is. Then over here, my cilantro went to seed, bolted, the seeds fell over, and they're finally coming up, which is yay, because I need cilantro to make salsa. And the tomatoes are still producing, but they're kind of doing this weird thing where one side ripens and the other side doesn't, and I'm not really sure why they're doing that. But they're doing pretty well. I've had to pull off a few tomato hornworms. That's how these tomatoes got eaten. They're very difficult to find if you don't know what you're looking for. They're very well camouflaged, but I mean, that's of course their gig. But I've been canning quite a few tomatoes, so even though we kind of have a lull in tomato production, it's kind of fine with me because we had so many tomatoes. And the Blue Lakes, I didn't actually rip them out, they're actually still producing a little bit. Now, I kind of keep missing them because they blend in a little bit more, so I'm kind of leaving them on purpose so I can get some seeds to plant next year. Over here, this is my best Puma pepper, and it's pretty well loaded. I'm a little afraid to try it because it's supposed to be super, super hot, and I do like hot things, but there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Oh no, we got an egg sun going. Anyway, so I threw in one fork leaf over here that seemed like it was a little bit crammed compared to the others. I've got my Puma pepper over here. Like I said, it's really hot, and I'm a little worried that it's going to be too hot. In the back, I've actually got a lone watermelon, which you should never do, but I planted a whole bunch of them, and that was the only one that made it. And it's growing along the fence, but it hasn't set any watermelons. But it's really done well, so I think next year I need to get a little more serious about the watermelons. Right here, these are a purple sweet potato. That one's called Dingus Bayesian Purple, so hopefully it'll be tasty, but we'll find out. And even though my big tomatoes have taken a break, the cherry tomatoes just keep going, and they just keep going. I haven't been harvesting as many of them as I probably should have because I just had so many of the big tomatoes that I didn't even bother, as there were just so many. But now that the big tomatoes have kind of slowed down a little bit, these guys, I know from experience, will just keep going. They'll keep producing tomatoes until pretty much frost. And it's the morning egg song. So this is the Okra, and it has really been producing quite a bit. I actually forgot one yesterday. And I love the flowers on them. It's a member of the Malvaceae. So it's the mallow family, so it's related to things like cotton and hibiscus. So here we've got, this is the big one. A lot of these got kind of stunted, but I'm still getting some okra being produced, and I love fried okra, so totally gonna make some of that probably tonight. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna tell you guys about are the bean towers. So the bean towers are doing pretty good. I've got lots and lots of beans, again, because we had that crazy cold snap. It allows the beans to set beans a lot more easily, to set fruit. So you notice here, this is the purple beans, and it's just loaded. And I keep picking them, and somehow I come out and there's more. So I'm actually leaving some of the bigger ones at this point because I do want to save seeds. In fact, this particular bean, all of these came from seeds that we saved ourselves. And beans are self-pollinating, so you really don't have to worry too much about getting much cross-pollination. This Hopi has still not bloomed for me. I think I know why now, but I'm going to do a separate video on that and talk about beans, talk about Phaseolus. So I'll do a separate video on Phaseolus vulgaris, which is what all of these are. These are common beans. So got quite a few beans. Even though these plants are looking a little sketchy, they have just gone bananas. And this is probably one of my favorite beans. This is Seychelles. This is a pole bean, and it fruits early like a bush bean, but it just kind of keeps going. And I had a few of these. I think I just stepped on them and broke the bottom, and that's why they died. I'm not 100% sure. But what's been funny is these beans have lasted so long. We also had so much rain on top of it being cool that some of our little twine here that the beans were climbing on actually just rotted and fell. So we're going to have to buy some new twine next year because this stuff just wasn't good enough to even last a season. Hey, Bossy, what you doing, bud? He's hoping that I'm going to throw him some of the tomatoes I have in my hand. He's looking at my hand very intently. Anyway, so we've gotten some good beans, and they're really tasty, and this has probably been our best year for green beans. And again, it's probably due to the weather more than anything else, because beans are so sensitive to temperature. But hey, I'll take it. The one thing I think I may try to do next time is really try to go for my beans in the fall, because it seems like, at least right now, I'm getting so much better production. Even when it was quote-unquote cool in the spring, I didn't really get that much. But now that it's become a little bit cool, even though it's August and it should be blazing hot, it's a little bit cooler at night, but some of that's unseasonable. But you know, especially as we get into later August and September, I think fall beans may be kind of more the way we should go in our climate.